Well, hello, Facebook friends and family. Today is day 10. We are almost halfway through this 21 days. Wow, can't believe it's been 10 days already. So how are you all today? So good to see you. I'm so glad that you're all here and popping in, whether live or on replay. Oh, Daisy, May, and Diane. Hello, you guys. Thank you guys so much for popping in. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. Today's topic is resentment and bitterness. Ouch. Okay, so, I say this every day, and you guys are probably like, come on, really? Is every single emotion really that tough? Look, our emotions on this adulting roller coaster are tough because no one ever really teaches us how to move through them. We just kind of get stopped by them and get stuck in them sometimes, right? Resentment and bitterness are particularly challenging because they're kind of a blend of many other emotions that are kind of smushed together. So resentment is one of those things that it's about the expectations that we haven't really kind of let go of. And a lot of these emotions that I've talked about over the last 9 days, other than today, are really about expectations in a lot of ways. But that's a whole other kind of live that we could do. And that would be, again, days and days worth of understanding, because expectations are kind of bred from our experiences and then the perceptions that we have about it. So expectations often come about because of the shouldas, right? I should have done this. I should have done that. Why didn't I do this? What would have happened if I would have done this? So when somebody does something to us, or not to us, when somebody does something and we feel triggered or hurt or upset by it, what happens is we kind of hold on to that hurt. We kind of hold on to that expectation, even if it's really subtle and it's just kind of like in the back of our mind, kind of like this subtle subconscious or conscious kind of thought process or belief system or expectation. And we start to kind of stew in that feeling and that hurt, in that maybe a little bit of anger, maybe a little bit of confusion, maybe a little bit of feeling of betrayal. They were supposed to be my friend. Why didn't they do that? They were supposed to not lie to me because they're my partner. That coworker should have done XYZ so that I didn't get in trouble from my boss. And again, I'm trying to use just a few little examples of different scenarios so that you guys can kind of get what I'm talking about more easily and maybe plug in your own kind of situations. So it's really those expectations that have been left unfulfilled. And it's really those hurts that we're kind of sitting in and stewing in. And again, it doesn't have to be something that is really big, right? It could be really small. Like my friend didn't tell me they were going out that night and didn't invite me. Or they said something to me, friend, coworker, again, partner, just plug in your own kind of value there. And they said something to me and it kind of hurt my feelings, and it's not really a big deal. I'm not really going to say anything to them about it because, I know it's my trigger. It's just kind of what I'm feeling. But what happens is if we don't let that go and if we hold on to that, it can start to kind of breed into resentment. And then we kind of hold on to it even more tightly. Because now, and we say things like, I resent that person for doing that, or I resent that situation. So then what happens is, because we kind of get stuck in those shouldas, they should have done this, they should have done that, why didn't they do this? When we don't let go of some of those resentful feelings, then it can grow and breed even into a bigger kind of resentment, which is bitterness, right? So resentment and bitterness are really kind of tied together in the sense that if I don't kind of let go of some of those expectations and some of those shouldas, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, it will start to breed resentment. And if I then don't work to move through the resentment, it can grow and breed into bitterness. Yeah, it's kind of icky. So one of the things that I always used to do with a lot of my clients to kind of give a visual example of how to kind of let go, because that's a big thing. People are often like, how do I let go? It's not so easy to let go. I feel these things. I'm holding on to these things, resentments, and regret the same thing. No. Well, okay. No, Daisy, they're not. But here's where it can shift a little bit, is that if I'm holding on to resentment toward myself, okay, I resent the fact, which is I kind of am holding on to my own hurts and expectations left unfulfilled in me toward me. We might not call it resentment. It then shifts to something, as you said, we call regret. Now I have regret because I'm stuck in those, I should have done this. Why didn't I do that? And now I have regret that I didn't. And now that I have regret that I feel as though if I would have done XYZ, then my life would be in a different place today, or some other situation may have happened. So the easiest way to kind of begin to move through resentment, I don't know, did that, let me ask Daisy, did that help to clarify it all a little for you? The resentment or regret, because they're not really the same thing. I guess think of it this way. Resentment is more external towards someone or something else or a situation, whereas regret is essentially a bit of that resentment, but turned inward toward ourselves, right? About our life from past, that I regret not having that. So I kind of resent it. It's just we use different words. And so resentment might not be the word that most people are used to using. When we're talking about our own selves and our own past, we would use the word regret, but essentially it's kind of the same thing, because it's about the expectations that have been left unfulfilled and even the hurts that we haven't really been able to let go of. More with regret than resentment. Okay, so just flip this then with what we're talking about today. Flip this on yourself, right? And take a look at, in the solutions that I'm about to give, take a look at how you can apply this specifically to yourself, okay? So the first thing to really kind of do is to write down all of the resentments that you have. So in your case then, Daisy May, write down all the regrets that you have, okay? Write them all down and just kind of take a look at them. And even if there's any bitterness toward anybody else, or even if there's some bitterness that you have in your own self, which could show up when we're talking about self more specifically, that bitterness would show up as kind of self-hatred or self-destructive. And we're going to have spent 3 days on the selves, like self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-worth. And I think that's coming up closer to the end, probably somewhere in the day 16, 17, 18, or somewhere in that range. We're going to spend a lot of time on the selves, because those are big, huge things that we often take this external stuff and we turn it back on ourselves. So if you write down either the resentments or some of the bitterness that you're feeling toward other people, just briefly write down what those things are, or in your case, write down some of those regrets that you have. And then I always used to use this example with a lot of my clients to kind of demonstrate the letting go piece. I would ask them, there would be a pen on the side of my desk. I'm going to put it on my hand because it's easier for everybody to see. And I would say, okay, can you please pick up the pen, or can you try to pick up the pen? And they would always pick it up. And I would say, well, I didn't ask you to pick it up. I asked you to try to pick it up, right? So trying is this state of commitment and non-commitment. I am trying to pick it up, but I'm not actually picking it up. I'm kind of stuck, hovering in this state of moving toward it, but not really committed to doing it. Well, it's the same with letting go. Well, why can't I let this go? Well, I don't know. I have the pen in my hand. How hard is it to just drop it? Okay, now a pen is not the same as emotions. And the pen is not the same as feeling hurts or feeling regret or feeling bitterness or feeling resentment. But what happens when we're holding on to something, we're repeating and going over and over, essentially rereading that same scenario, that same story, those same feelings over and over again. So we're kind of keeping them alive inside of us. We're holding on to them. So letting go is about being able to first identify what those feelings are, what that resentment is, what that regret is, what those bitterness feelings are all about, as far as who are they directed toward? What are the situations? What parts of those stories are you rereading? And it's really difficult to identify those unless you kind of get a clearer picture, which is why I ask you to write it down. Or again, if you're not big on writing, then use your voice app, your voice recorder on your phone, or some other, medium that you have to record your thoughts on that so that you at least get them out and you can hear them back. Then take a look at what you're not letting go of. Now you can say, oh, I'm not letting go of the resentment. I'm not letting go of the regret. I'm talking about what are you not letting go of with that person? So let's say I feel hurt that somebody said something to me and I write it down and I'm feeling this hurt and I'm resenting them for saying that thing. Because when I write it down, I look and I see, what am I not letting go of? Oh, I'm not letting go of the fact that my belief system, my thought process was that they are my friend, therefore they should, there's that should word, should not have said this to me. Okay, well now I can see where I'm getting stuck and caught up in, right? Right at that should piece. All right, so then, did I have an expectation about them that they didn't fulfill, which is why I went to the should, right? Did I have an expectation about them or a situation that went unfulfilled, that then kind of triggered the hurt or the feeling that they were supposed to, or they should have done whatever, that then is triggering in me this feeling of having a trouble letting go, and then feeling as though I'm resentful or bitter or even regretful in your case, Daisy May, because again, they're very tied together. But because we use the word resentment usually toward and about someone else or a situation, regret is essentially the same, but we're turning it inward on ourselves. It's just about us, that I regret not having done this, thought this, experienced this, whatever that may be. So then, did I have these expectations about myself or someone else? And then what would happen if I were to release these feelings? How would I feel? Like, what will happen, write that down, if I don't release these feelings, if I don't let these feelings go, and I stay stuck in this should, in this expectation, in this unfulfilled hurt? What will happen and how will I feel if I don't let it go? And what will happen and how will I feel if I can let it go and I do let it go? Will my life change? What will my life feel like? How will I see myself or other people? Because the art of letting go isn't about, it's not always about forgiveness, which we hear a lot about. It's more about choosing to just kind of say, I'm not going to continue to hold on to this piece and let it control me. I have the power to choose how I move through this. And using some of these questions is what helps for you to understand how to begin to break it down. Because emotions are these very difficult and tricky things that can absolutely trip us up if we're not given some of the basic tools on how to break some of those things down and break down some of these emotions, right? Emotions are energy and motion. And we haven't really gotten into this because we could go really deep and really long into this, but emotions are those things that are labels that we were taught to give a situation. So we experience something, We felt physical things in the body, like tightness in our chest and butterfly feelings in our stomach, and maybe we were hot and felt shaky. And we were taught to give this emotional label to that physical set of feelings. Feelings are different than emotions in the context of this story out here. And because then we then associate these emotions with these situations and these physical feelings in the body, every other time we feel them, we refer back to that by using that emotional label. So that's why I say that they're kind of tough, and they're very kind of interconnected in many ways, because emotions are really about our perceptions and then tied to those experiences. So when we're dealing with resentment and bitterness, especially, because those two, and the regret that you mentioned, Daisy May, because that's more turned more inward, right, toward ourselves, but it's essentially the same as resentment. When we hold on to those things, we're kind of doing a low-level stewing in them, and sometimes not so low level, and it can really affect how we perceive and experience life from that point forward. So it's really important to begin to learn how to kind of start to break them down a little bit. So I hope that helps a little. Tammy, oh, thank you so much for joining in, love. No more practice on letting go. I carry lots of baggage. Yeah, Daisy May, you know, I think a lot of us carry a lot of baggage, right? And the only difference is between people that carry a lot of baggage and it seems to really weigh them down and cause them to kind of get stuck or stopped or whatever the situation may be in their life. It really holds them back. And someone else who carries a lot of baggage too, but doesn't appear to have that stop them, is the only real difference, Daisy May, is that carrying that baggage is, it's almost like the person is holding on to that baggage really tight for dear life. Like, I'm afraid if I let this baggage go, I'm not really sure, and I'm scared of what will happen. Like, who will I be? How will I move through the world? What does that mean about me? Whereas the other person says, I'm tired. My arms are tired of carrying all this baggage. I'm just literally going to set it down. Like, I've got the pen and I'm going to just open my hand and drop it. So it's making that choice, but it's difficult to make that choice to let it go if we have these fears, because we don't really know what will happen if we do. So that's why these questions are important to look at and to answer, because if you can identify what your unfulfilled expectations or hurts were, if you can identify what the should-haves were that you felt in resentment, in bitterness, and even in regret, which again, resentment is external towards someone or something. Regret is essentially resentment, but turned inward toward ourselves and about ourselves. If you can begin to identify, then you can begin to look at what the unfulfilled expectations or hurts were and what your ideas about that are. Now you begin to have the strength and the control and the power to be able to remove those things, let them go, by looking at, well, how do I feel if I hold on to this? And how would I feel if I let this go? What would my life feel like and look like if I were able to kind of let this unfulfilled hurt or expectation go? I hope that makes sense. Tomorrow is anxiety and panic. And that is a topic we could go on for months. Well, obviously in our world today, people spend thousands and millions of dollars on research. So this is not a light little topic tomorrow on anxiety. But these are 15, 20-minute little snippets. And I promised you guys that we would just dive a little bit in, like barely dip our toe into some of these areas, and a few little solutions to kind of help you start to move through. Emotions and being an adult and dealing with all this stuff and carrying all that baggage, like you said, Daisy, is huge for people. That's why there are people like me in the world. That's why there are therapists and there are coaches to help people through. So these are not things we can just kind of tackle right away and dive right into, and a couple little solutions and a tiny little explanation is going to help you move through and all will be good in the world. That's unrealistic. But the idea is to help people start to begin to have just a little bit of feeling like they can start, that there's hope, that there's possibility. Hello, I'm all about infinite possibilities, remember? So I hope that's helped today. Yeah, it leads to a lot of overthinking, and that's, you said it though, overthinking. And that's the thing, get out of your head. Not to you specifically, Daisy, but if that helps you, yes. If you're overthinking, get out of your head. But for everyone, the most important thing is to start to understand what you're feeling, what those emotions are that you're feeling, and how they're tied to the experiences, So we're at 20. It's a good place to stop, because I could go on and on for days about this. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that this has helped and is helping. And again, I am so incredibly passionate about helping people learn how to not have to live in the prison of their own mind, their mind chatter, that overthinking, the baggage they're carrying, the experiences that they've had, that if you need something else, if you want to see something else, please reach out to me and offer up feedback. Let me know. If you believe this can help other people and will help other people, please feel free to spread the love and share. Thank you, Daisy May. You and Tammy are probably my 2 #1 fans and sharing, and I love that. And it's more about impact and helping other people as much as we can in this world, because we're not on this planet alone. And I thank you guys so much. If you want the MP3 at the end of the 21 days, make sure that you let me know and drop me your email address so that I will make sure to get you that edited, smooth version of the 21 days of topics and solutions. For now, I hope that you have a day free from resentment, regret, and bitterness. I hope that you enjoy the beauty of the rest of your day, even though here today it's kind of cloudy and yucky and kind of rainy. I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, where we will go over anxiety and panic. Big topics, really big for a lot of people. But for now, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.